Right, so I haven't been able to express my happiness about this, but ever since I stopped doing these TNA reviews, the hot redheaded chick has been in her rightful place in the front row each and every single week. So a couple things I've liked about TNA as of recently. For one, it seems like they don't just revolve the whole show around one angle like they've done the last year. It seems like now every angle is just as important as the other. So one week we'll get a show that revolves around the World Championship. The next week we'll get a show that revolves around James Storm and Kurt Angle. And a week like tonight where we get a show that revolves around the Knockouts. And that's one of the awesome things TNA's doing right now. They're trying different things. You'll never see WWE open and close the show with the Divas. Now I know there's probably going to be some people that have a problem with the Knockouts Championship getting more TV time than the World Champion, but I don't know, I kind of like the balance that it has, because at least it's kind of better than what WWE does sometimes, where they just have one angle that we should care about and the rest of the roster is doing garbage. I mean, here you have a number of things to care about, like the James Storm Kurt Angle rivalry, which has been built up pretty well. They've even gone outside the box doing different things, like the bar brawl that they had with Kurt Angle and all those random guys. It was funny, entertaining, and it built up the rivalry at the same time. But then you have the way they've been building up Bobby Roode as world champion. They had this long, really drowned out, boring segment where Bobby Roode continues to copy Christian Cage's mannerisms, joke style, and movements. I mean, I get what the segment was trying to do. It was just way too long. But the funniest part about this was Bobby Roode's friend actually got a bigger pop than half the TNA roster. Just saying. So yeah, it kind of sucks for Bobby Roode that he hasn't really been booked as the best champion possible. And he's going to lose the championship to Jeff Hardy either at the next pay-per-view or sometime after that. But let's just hope TNA doesn't completely revolve the show around Jeff Hardy after he wins the championship, and guys like Bobby Roode don't just drop completely off the face of the earth afterwards. And another thing, TNA answered the internet's request and finally is starting to use other X Division talent. Now they're using Chris Masters and Ricky Ortiz, and despite being off TV for like years, the fans are already starting to warm up to them, so that's a good thing. And I'm kind of starting to like that Ricky Ortiz guy. He's actually pretty impressive. Maybe he won't be Ricky Ortiz for long. And I was wondering, since Matt Morgan and Crimson beat Mexican America, there was no other tag teams for them to go after. And what do? They put together a whole tournament with random tag teams and have them all compete to see who gets a tag team championship match. Smart idea. Now, there's a lot of people that really don't like this idea, and I don't get what's not to like about it. I mean, it furthers some storylines. I know some of the teams are random, but yeah, that's just for entertainment, comedic purposes. I mean, it just seems sometimes like wrestling fans are like devoid of all emotion. It's like, no, we don't want to laugh. We don't want to see boobies. We want to see 2 straight hours of men rolling around with each other. We had Eric Young teaming with ODB, a comedy team, obviously. And here's what I liked about this. They had the comedy, and they got it out in the beginning of the match. They had ODB and Magnus in what was, to me at least, an entertaining segment. Then they had Eric Young get tagged in and took off his pants, adding more of the comedic value of that. And then once they got the comedy out the way, they wrestled. And it was just wrestling. There was nothing funny about the wrestling besides Eric Young's normal movements that he does. And that's one of the nice things that TNA does sometimes. They have comedy, they get it out of the way early, and then they just get to the wrestling. They don't do that all the time, but they do that sometimes, and when they do, it's good. Now, of course, TNA still does have that problem where they just can't seem to have a clean ending to any match, and every match has to have some kind of a screwy ending. Yeah, pretty much every match tonight had a screwy ending with either interference or a heel turn or a face turn. Every match was pretty screwy. Now, as far as the Knockouts opening and closing the show, I think it's definitely a good idea for TNA to actually test this out, because the Knockouts have been known to get better ratings than some of the guys. However, this just kind of didn't feel like it belonged. Now, I don't want to complain about this because at least it's something different and it's something fresh. But at the same time, the story revolved around 3 people: Velvet Sky, Karen Jarrett, and Madison Rayne. Mickie James was doing on and off things. Gail Kim, all she was doing was standing in the background whenever Karen Jarrett and Madison Rayne cut promos. But if you really were going to close the show with 2 knockouts wrestling a match, you really can't do any better than Mickie James and Gail Kim. Basically, I just think they could have done this better, because the opening segment was all about Madison Rayne and Sting making fun of Madison Rayne and Gail Kim just standing there in the background like she usually does. Now, I know Madison Rayne, as annoying as she is, she's probably a much better talker than Gail Kim is, so I guess I can understand that. Now, as far as the match itself, Gail Kim was a little sloppy in the match, and they took the match too slow, too quickly, if you know what I'm saying. Like, they hit like 5 moves, and then after that, they were down and struggling to get back up, and they only hit 1 move every 5 minutes. And everybody else notice how touchy-feely Earl Hebner gets whenever there's a knockout match? Like, seriously, he touches them at the most inappropriate of times. Maybe there's a reason he referees every knockout match. So I definitely think if this was going to be the main event, they went with the wrong ending. I mean, I know it furthers the storyline and everything, but if this was going to be the main event, they should have had Mickie win the championship, or it should have had some kind of clean... Wait, what am I talking about? This is TNA, clean finishes and main events. What am I thinking? Yeah, what am I thinking? Never mind. This was a perfect ending for a perfect main event in TNA. So yeah, those are my thoughts on TNA as of late, and I definitely like the balance that it has. Let's hope after Jeff Hardy wins the championship that all doesn't get ruined and they start focusing the show completely on Jeff Hardy. That's just what I'm hoping for, but I definitely like that TNA is at least trying new things and trying to go outside the box a little bit, and it's really working, and I think TNA is on a pretty good track heading into the new year. So anyway, this has been MTO. We'll see MTO more reviews, yada yada yada, blah blah blah, the end.